Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle, and welcome to the Conservative Take. I hope everybody can hear me. I have Jackie here, who's going to come on the live stream. This is the top three show where we take three topics and we take those and then we come together with a consensus and we talk about the topics of today. Let me bring Jackie on here. Let me see if she's on here. Hey, Jackie, how are you doing?
Hey, Big Money, what's up?
Nothing much. Just getting set up here.
That's all right. Let me get. Wait a minute. There we go.
So we got a lot to talk about. A lot going on in the news.
Listen,
how are you doing? First of all,
well, I'm doing okay, but I'm struggling to just keep up with everything that's going on. There's just so much happening. And I think it's just going to keep up or get worse or get more intense as we get closer to the election. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think I'm seeing a lot of stuff here about the red mirage, which I would talk about if you want to talk about later. But
I'm up on it.
I mean, craziness. Hello, Northwest Rain. So for those of you who are coming on here for the live stream, this is essentially what we do. It's a top three show. We take three topics, but I'm going to kind of be loosey-goosey on this one. I'm going to talk about the first topic being the Trump campaign. Everything encompasses that. The Biden campaign, everything encompasses that. And anything involving woke media. So I'm going to cheat on this time because there's so much stuff, as Jackie mentioned, to cover. So Jackie, what do you think about I'm not really getting to topics yet, but just kind of overall your impression of the campaign, because I heard you went to a special event this week.
I did. I was privileged to go to a rally for our great president, and a couple things. First of all, I think when you get to go see any president at any time, and we were sitting very close. We were sitting right behind the president, and to see the goings on and the preparation and what happens when the president comes, it's awe inspiring. And then our president, because he's so corny and he knows how to work the media, the music they play, like as Air Force One's coming in and he plays that Phil Collins song, I Could Feel It Coming in the Dead of Night, and here comes the plane on the slow roll. So our rally that we went to was at an airport. So you're right there on the tarmac with the president. And the plane rolls up, and then 10 of those black cars, those armored, like 3 or 4 of them are those heavy armored cars, all the Secret Service, all the preparations. I mean, it's really, that alone is impressive. But then I love President Trump, but now I really love President Trump. He's coming down the thing and they're playing, he's coming down the staircase and they're playing Fortunate Son. And then, of course, they switch to Proud to Be an American. And he's coming up, he's saying hello to everybody. He's just working it. But I think that's also how he feels. And, of course, there's so many people amongst us regular people that adore him. Everybody was just freaking out. So that part was pretty impressive. And then, of course, when he spoke, his back was to us because we were in the crowd that's behind him. And I wish I could have seen his face a little bit more. He does turn around and speak out. And I did learn one trick that President Trump does. Whenever you see him speak and you see him going like all that pointing, like he knows, he does that to a lot of, he definitely doesn't know everybody he's doing it to. That must be a thing, like a tip for working with people, because he turned around a couple times, and I know the people to my left and right don't personally know him. He was pointing, hey, thanks, like they're special to him. I think that's a pretty engaging thing to do, but I always thought it was people he already knew. It's not. It's just strangers. But his speech was magnificent. You've heard him a couple times yourself, haven't you?
I saw him 3 times, once as president.
So when he was running in 2016, you saw him?
Twice, yes.
In the same kind of thing, like a rally?
I saw him, the first one, I saw him at Boca Raton, Florida. Mm-hmm. And then the second time I saw him in Winston-Salem.
And then when you saw him as
president, but those two were different compared to
when you saw him as president.
I saw him in Charlotte. That was back in February, right as COVID was breaking. It was like the second to last event before COVID. And that was packed. I got pictures on my social media. It was packed. I mean, it was to the rafters. Probably about 20,000. So that's just inside. Yeah. Outside is even more.
Right. And actually, he says he likes doing outside. And as long as the weather holds, I think that's a great idea.
I mean, the
outdoor
airport rallies or the
whatever, any outside,
yes.
any outdoor. I think he doesn't have to hear about the COVID baloney. They did ask us to keep our masks on, and they gave. I think I picked up multiple masks. I did get a lot of swag as well, by the way.
I bought this hat at the rally, by the way.
This bad boy, and I got 2 Trump Pences, and they gave us this, which I really like because it's not overtly Trump. It just says U.S., but bam, turn it to the side. No, other side.
Yep.
45, and then of course on the back.
Yeah. It's.
I like it.
There you go. It's pretty subtle. Well, yeah, I have a video clip of you at the. I have a video clip if you don't mind me showing it. I can show it to the audience. If you don't. I got it. I have it queued up. So this is a short clip. It's with. I hope now it's going to have some music behind it. So I hope YouTube doesn't ding it. But if it does, I would just have to remove the music. But we should also remove the crowd noise, which kind of sucks. But well, here it is. Hold on, let me get it here. I got it here somewhere. Here it is. Thumbs up or something.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Listen, it's just, I mean, you get goosebumps. And I forgot, after he plays the Phil Collins song, then they play that. And you're just, it's getting you really revved up. I'm sure they played music when you went to see him as well.
They play a lot of good songs. I mean, a lot of good songs. I mean, a lot of Elton John, a lot of Billy Joel. A lot of good. I mean, not just the typical Billy Joel songs, like the good stuff that you hadn't really heard a lot on the radio.
Right.
I can't think right now, but they're, just really, really good stuff. And you just feel like you're just part of a party atmosphere,
Right. And I forgot the other song. They played Fortunate Son too when he was coming right before the door opened on the elevator. But all these songs to me kind of like are sort of meaningful because I think that song by Creedence Clearwater Revival, Fortunate Son, I mean, we can all identify with that. And
I just feel bad
for Eric because it's always in the Vietnam movies,
I feel bad his parents could never see him where he is now.
Yeah, well, they're seeing from above, but listen, I just moved from New York. I was there 15 years. They have a different view of President Trump because they knew him as Donald Trump that was always in the papers and, he's a blowhard and all that. But I honestly feel that he had a change when he came down that escalator and as time has gone on. I honestly feel that he's taken his relationship with God to heart. I think he feels strongly that he's doing the right thing. I mean, why would he do this? It's really not that great. You know what I mean? He's doing it for free. Sometimes I really get scared that he's just going to say, you know what, forget it, I'm out. And I hope that never happens.
Right.
That's my worry. And the other worry is when the left finally realizes they can't stop him, they're going to try to assassinate him. That's my other worry.
Well, presidents always get attempts on their lives. In fact, I didn't realize that President Clinton was almost assassinated by Bin Laden. That he had a bomb. He had a bomb on a bridge, and it was just recently released, within the past year or so. And the motorcade found out at the last minute, and they averted the route right before, and there was a bomb on that bridge. So, and that's of course, I think Clinton was either trying to get him or vice versa. They never got each other until, of course, September 11th, which, by the way, is a good segue into this another segment. But yeah, I mean, presidents are always under threat, and I'm always worried about him. I'm always praying for him, and so I just hope that God has something in he still has more for him. And that's what my hope and prayer is, and I think he does because right now we need Trump. This country right now we need someone like him for the next 4 years to get us back to the point where we can get someone in there like a Cruz or Nikki Haley or somebody else. But right now we need someone like Trump who's going to keep that table turned over, because we have to get the weeds out. We have to get the vermin out. Drain the swamp.
Flip the tables over and keep going. Kick open doors.
Yeah.
We have, because no professional politician would do that.
No, exactly. He has to clear the way for a person like a Ted, like a Pence or Haley or Cruz or anyone else who wants to run, who's a politician. So, I'm seeing stuff like even Tucker Carlson maybe looking to run.
I'll tell you, I would like to see Rick Grinnell. I like Rick Grinnell a lot, and I think he's really smart, and he's very polished, and also he doesn't tolerate fools. When he spoke up at that press conference like last week when the Bosnia-Serbia thing was announced, he just let everybody have it. But he's very smart, and I think he'd be a good pick to groom him towards a national leadership position.
And I haven't heard much of him, so I may look into him more. I don't know much more about him other than just the headlines. But you think he could be a good candidate going forward in the cabinet or further into?
Dave Rubin did a very good interview with him. Look that one up online, and it's very good. And also, Rick Grinnell isn't really the hothead say like Trump is. He's more polished.
Is he the My Pillow? Is he the My Pillow guy?
No, that's Mike. What's his name? Rick Grinnell I think he was the ambassador to Germany, and he happens to be gay. Okay. Then they put him in.
Okay.
Then he was the national security, I think, like a temporary fill-in job. And now I'm not sure what he's doing now. They took him out of that job. But let me tell you, he's sharp, he's smart, he's polished, well-educated, and he's really got a good handle on everything.
And the LGBTQ community doesn't want to acknowledge he even exists. It's amazing.
They do not acknowledge him at all, or they call him like a puppet.
Yeah, that's sad. I'm going to share a screen here. I have a oops, I did it wrong. Let me add it to here. So this is an article from the Gateway Pundit, and it's pretty cool because it's talking about the campaign and what the campaign's doing in terms of outreach. And this is from the RNC saying that the Trump campaign has reached a milestone. It's knocked on 12 million doors in swing states. And they're having a volunteer force of like 1.5 million, upwards to 2 million by the time of the election day. And what they said here is that they're basically taking the ground game of Obama in 2008 and 2012. Says the Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee passed an enormous milestone this week, making contact with 100 million voters. 100th millionth voter through the door knocking and phone banking. What do you think about that in terms of the outreach? It's like they've taken the flip on the DNC and taken their playbook and done it. What do you think about that?
I think that it's very smart. As we know, when Trump started having rallies, probably a full year ago, he started making email lists at everybody that came. And as a matter of fact, when I was just at the Trump rally, I signed up to be a volunteer. This is what I think. I think people weren't allowed to talk about loving Donald Trump or even being a conservative, but especially Donald Trump. And you could just feel the relief of people finally being able to talk about it. I'm one of those people. I would never post anything about it on Facebook. And I just said, that's it. And about a month ago, I started posting my political views and my conservative views on Facebook. We've had it. The silent majority has had it. And even when I moved in here, I went over to see my new neighbors and she goes, we were wondering if you were one of us. That's what she said. And I was like, well, What do you mean by one of us? But I think going door to door, I have to say, I think that the Black voters for Trump is a huge, because, they go places where I can't go. Right. And they can sort of recruit or talk to people that I can't talk to. I think the ground game is really important. But I also think that the other thing they took from Obama, the tech, the high tech, the emailing, the all of that, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. I think it's you got to hit it high, hit it low. And especially since Donald Trump gets no positive publicity, right? So it's got to be word of mouth. It's got to be other people talking. It's got to be neighbors going to other neighbors saying, yes, I'm voting for him. Yes, I think he did a good job. Yes, yes, yes. I think it's wonderful. They're so organized. I thought Kellyanne Conway did a good job, but I think, barring voter fraud, I think that they're going to be successful because they've almost left no stone unturned. Eric Trump's been in High Point twice in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the RNC chairwoman, she's from Michigan, and I didn't know much about her, but I knew about Ken Mellman from 2004, the Bush campaign, and I knew about the guy who ran in 2016. I keep forgetting his name. He's from Wisconsin. I wasn't that sold on this person until I actually saw an interview with her, and she might be the real deal because not only did she carry Michigan for Trump in a really volatile year in 2016, but she's taken the party and broadened the tent even beyond 16. She's done a number where she's actually using bilingual advertising, commercialing, which was a taboo for Republicans. Oh, we don't have to do that because we don't pander. We don't pander. She's like, whatever. We have to reach people where they're supposed to be met. And I think she takes a very pragmatic approach to it. And she, like you said, she's not leaving any stone unturned. And again, what you said again with the computer marketing and other stuff, that was actually done by the guy before that, Brad Parsnell. He was expert in that, but they got rid of him because he wasn't really doing well in the campaign otherwise. But they took him. He's still doing that campaign electronic tallying of
technology. Yeah,
correct. He's still there. He's not in the lead role now. I think it's a good mixture now.
I think it is a good mixture. And speaking of that, as I was a Democrat for 35 years, and I think one of the big problems with Republicans is they don't have a big enough tent. You remember in Uncle Tom when Carol Swain was talking about they said, why do you have your office down here? Move it somewhere where people are going to vote for you. I think that Republicans are starting to finally understand that there's a whole bunch of people out there that they could reach out to and increase their base instead of just assuming. Really what's happening this year is Democrats are not, Black people, minorities, Hispanics are no longer assumed to be Democrats. And if we can keep that going, I think that the party will do much better and we'll have a more, more choice. Really, you don't want to have somebody far right and somebody far left. You want to have somebody in the middle. I think a lot of us are sort of middle-ish. I don't want anybody crazy one way in the White House. And Trump isn't really super right. He's not at all.
No, he's not. But he's a populist. He's a pragmatic. He's a populist. But I think look. The way I say it is this: it's not Trump's fault that conservative values work, right? If I think truly, if leftist values worked, he would do that. But they don't work.
But they don't.
You know what I mean? He wants the job done. I don't think he cares. He may care now more now he's been there for 4 years. He understands more. But going into it, he just wants solutions, right? And he doesn't mind making the tough call to do that, regardless of what happens to him politically.
I think that people that, like historically, people that like union people that were historically Democrat, and there are some diehards like that, but I think most people are going to go with the guy that seems to have solutions, the guy or the girl who seems to have solutions. And let's face it, come on, Biden, other than Trump's bad, that's his whole platform.
Yeah, I've done some anecdotal testing here where basically to that very point where I had some friends go and look at their friends list on Facebook and just see how many of your friends are friends with Trump and with Hillary and with whatever. And it's almost all the same. Of course, they're mostly Trump because that's their friends. But Biden's always dead last behind Hillary and Bernie, no matter what. The enthusiasm, people who on the same page who love Obama don't love. You think people who are friends with who like Obama would also like Biden? No, you see what I'm saying? Like Biden I have like 5,000 friends.
Draw anybody. He's got no draw. He's got no juice.
And that's to your point. He doesn't have the enthusiasm to do anything. And I want to bring up an article here. I'm going to bring that up if dealing with Joe Biden and his energy level. Did you see that? Where he basically was like, "I'm shutting down the campaign because he can't have the energy, or he's too Tired? Did
Well,
you see that?
I think he traveled to Pennsylvania yesterday, and he's done that before. He went out to is it when he went to Scranton or he went to Michigan? And the next day, they call it putting a lid on it or something. I saw the article in the morning, like 8 o'clock in the morning. They said his campaign was calling all activities for the day.
Yeah, I have it right here. It comes up. So it says, it says Biden is so exhausted from his visiting Ground Zero yesterday that his campaign started the morning by shutting down. That's a headline. Definitely a right-leaning headline. Of course, this is the Gateway Pundit. They're
a little right, aren't they? He actually made 2 trips.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He went to Ground Zero, and him and Mike Pence shook hands, but then he went to Scranton. Not Scranton. He went to what's it called? Where the other plane crashed. Shanksville.
Okay. Yeah. So where they said the United 43, I believe.
Yeah.
When Let's Roll. Yeah. By the way, that's an awesome movie. By the way, that movie is incredible. In fact, just a sidebar here, if you get a chance to see it, that movie is a actual timeline of the events of that morning. So the actual movie is like the show 24, where it's real time. It's a real time movie, and so you're watching it, and they pulled all unknown actors, right?
Oh,
and
really?
all these unknown actors played. So when you watch it, you're like watching a documentary. It's really eerie. It's really creepy because you don't recognize anything. There's nothing in this film that takes you out of the movie. You know what I mean? And so, and then 2 hours later, the plane crashes. Because basically from the time it took off, for 2 hours later, it crashed. And so the whole movie is that timeline. It's insane.
What's that movie called?
It's whatever the flight number is called. I think it's 43 or I don't remember the actual name.
Flight 93 or something. I think it is, right?
Yeah.
But
but check that out. It's we maybe watch it. But I'm curious. Go ahead.
I was going to say, are we going to talk about the Biden campaign? Because I can hardly take it. Did you see his interview with Jake Tapper?
Talk to me about it. I don't have anything queued up on that one.
All right. So actually, I just reviewed it real quick before we got on. So, he has this interview. They're 140 feet apart. And first of all, it's awful. And I agree with President Trump. And as you know, I'm a registered nurse. I believe that sometimes Joe gets medication that makes him appear more energized and more alert and more forceful. And, because we've seen him other times where he looks like he's lost in a tunnel somewhere. So with Jake Tapper, he had some I thought they were pretty bad moments. For instance, I think Jake asked him, what does he think about President Trump calling him Slow Joe? And Biden laughed and he said, Slow Joe. And then he sort of just started to say something and forgot what he was going to say. And then he said, I better not say anything. I mean, it was really pathetic. But on policy, Jake Tapper got him on NAFTA. He said, will you give President Trump credit for getting rid of NAFTA and for USMC? And he goes, no. And he said, well, why not? He goes, well, we would have done it, but we had a Republican Congress and we couldn't get anything done. And so Jake said, okay, but will you give him credit? And he said, no. He just refused, even though Jake Tapper was obviously giving the president credit. And the other sticking point was he asked him about China, and he said, do you think that you and President Obama giving China most favored nation status, and I forget what the thing was with the trade, what he called it. He said, do you think that put us where we are today? And Joe Biden said, no, we want to see China succeed.
Yeah, because he mentioned about how Nancy. What he did say? Hold on, I'm sorry. You said he said that China.
We want China to succeed.
And what?
Yeah.
Well.
Jake Tapper was like, he just couldn't believe he said it.
You say it in the framework where you make a deal and they get something out of it and we get something out of it. You leave it at that. You don't say we want China to succeed. Because that just goes against the whole narrative with you, doing those deals with you and your son, getting billions of dollars for China, shilling for China, and all of that. That's just not a good messaging for him. I'm sure his hand.
here it is, like verbatim. Jake Tapper said, "Let me ask you about China. In 2011, you said it is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. A lot of people think that allowing China into the World Trade Organization, that's what it was, extending the most favored nation, which I don't know why we did that, and allowed China to take advantage of the United States. Do you think in retrospect you were naive?" He said, "No. In context of that, we want China to grow. We don't want a war with China." I said to Xi Jinping, "You may remember the president wanted me to spend time with him, which is probably like to cover for what him and Hunter were doing. So I traveled around the world with him." And then he just goes on. He said, "What has Trump done? He poked his finger in the eyes of allies and embraced every autocrat in the world. The way to keep China in line is to make two things clear. Insist we play by international rules." Well, we already know China doesn't play by rules. They steal our intellectual property. They sent that virus, which isn't even the first virus, because the first virus, I guess, was SARS. They do a million things that are wrong. Not to mention human rights violation, not to mention Hong Kong. So I think Joe was just playing it like a tape in his head from 2011. And he just can't compete. I think that the people that are going to vote for Joe Biden are going to be people that just hate Trump so much they don't care. And people that are just so strongly Democrat, they just will have to vote for him. And maybe there's 12 people that like Kamala Harris. 12, 13, max. Her family. Kamala Harris's extended family. Because we all know she's going to be president. If they were elected February 1st, Kamala comes in office.
Yeah, because she's less popular than Joe Biden is. I mean, which is even scarier. But yeah, the whole thing with China is, you're right, with the intellectual property. Not only that, but they're digging mounds and mounds and mounds of dirt out of the South China Sea, building bases in areas that's under dispute. I mean, they're really at a conflict with several countries in the area. I believe India is one of them. And it's just like
Africa. I forgot about Africa. The rare earth minerals and all that.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. They're overstepping their international bounds, and no one's called them any of this stuff. And people don't understand that China was given third world status for decades when they weren't really qualified. But they were getting money because they were saying, "Oh, poor us, poor us." And then we paid for China's being built up. And then, of course, now we look where they are. They're almost unstoppable. And prior to the whole thing with the Hong Kong, which I believe that's the main reason why the China virus came out, was because of Hong Kong, the uprising there. But just to stop that. Also, to prevent what Trump was doing with his trade policies, because he was bringing China to its knees.
I know. One of the things I see all the time, those protests in Hong Kong, and they're waving our flag and singing our national anthem. Yes. And then you contrast that with the gall darn baloney we got going over here in Portland. And, all the cities, Chicago, Philly, New York City, just burning our flags and lambasting this country. I mean, it's really sickening. So there's people that would kill to be an American citizen.
Yeah, I would say we should import more people from Hong Kong into this country for immigration. It's like, if they're so for immigration, let's bring people in from West Africa. Let's bring people in from Ghana, from Kenya. Let's bring people in from Bangladesh. Bring people in from Hong Kong. I guarantee the left won't like that. If they're so much in favor of immigration,
they don't want smart, hardworking people. They want ne'er-do-wells that don't have any, don't have trades and don't have an ability to raise themselves up, because they're looking to replace Black people as the guaranteed Democrat voter. So they're not interested in smart people.
Yeah, and Mexico's right there. It's very convenient. Right next door to us. So they're by proximity, they have access. And that's not fair to other countries around the world who don't have proximity to that.
Right. Oh, by the way, that was the other thing Biden said about the USMC. Well, now what are we going to do about Mexico? Like, dude.
Mexico's doing well in that trade deal.
He said now we're hurting Mexico by pulling out of NAFTA. That's not our priority. I don't want to screw them, but that's not a priority.
Well, we're not screwing them because they're not getting over on us, but they're getting a fair deal. All they have to do is check the southern border and make sure that they, abide by the policies and don't let people fly across the border, and also pay a toll coming across because they're doing that, and also comply with the remittance coming back from people who come to the country and send money back to Mexico. We're gonna get a commission off of that to help pay for the wall. So those are the conditions for the deal. But overall, everybody's gonna win. See, Trump, when you negotiate, it isn't about I get something, you get nothing. A good negotiator, you get something, I get something, I give up something, you give up something. We meet in the middle somewhere and we all win in the end. That's what a businessman does. And Mexico, that's why everyone likes the deal. Even Nancy Pelosi in the Tapper interview said it was a good deal. And then Biden had to backtrack and say, oh, well, yeah, I guess it was a good deal, but we can't give Trump credit for it.
It's really sickening. It's just sickening.
So I just don't know. I mean, I think what was I gonna say about Biden? Well, I mean, one thing we see Trump doing. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say about the campaign. What I was gonna say is that what Trump is doing in right side broadcasting. When you were at the Winston-Salem event, right? That was 2 days ago or 3 days ago. They Tuesday. Said in that particular. Okay, it's a week ago almost.
No, today's Saturday. It was 4 days ago.
Well, yeah. Okay. But he's had 3 or 4 rallies since then.
Oh yeah. Next
so they said that Michigan. He's in Reno today, but I think he said that they were going to have 100 more events between Tuesday to Election Day, and so Biden cannot keep up with that kind of pace.
He can't have 2 events.
He's not going to be. He's just not going to be
What about debating? What do you think is going to happen? There's no way that it's going to happen. So how is it not going to happen? Really is the question.
Well, there's several scenarios. One could be if he doesn't do it because of health reasons, they're going to have to replace him, and that would be bad too. So. Because then you have to change the ballots. Changing the ballots is very difficult at this late in the game. So they'll probably state the same thing that Nancy Pelosi said, that Trump's a liar. We don't want to give him the platform. So we're going to bail out. Or there could be a new kind of surge of virus, whatever, and they'll say it's just too dangerous. But I don't think people can go with that one because we've already seen virtual everything. Zoom, this, like you said, 143 feet apart, mask. There's no way you can do it in the same room. If it's just you can have a person, you can have Trump on one side of the stage, Biden on the side of the stage, a person in the back booth, and a cameraman. 4 people in a massive room, you could do that, no problem. And
theoretically, Trump could be at the White House.
Have all the pundits behind glass, in like the.
They don't even have to be in the same room theoretically, but I just think that there's no way because he can't even answer.
So to your I'm sorry. Oh yeah. So here's the deal. So okay, so they're pretty much at a situation where it's like they're in a no-win situation at this point. So the best they can hope for is to have a debate and then have him doped up on something and hope he doesn't make any kind of blunders. But even with that, even if he were able to do that, he still has to defend his positions, like the Tapper interview, right? So it's really hard for them to get through this without either him looking like a total leftist or a puppet or a total buffoon because he can't get through an interview without falling asleep or saying something stupid.
There was another event this week, or there's been a few, where somebody in the audience asked a question, and it was obviously a pre-planned question, and he said on camera, scroll the teleprompter so he could answer the question. And you said on camera, can you scroll it? Can you scroll it? So in other words, he can't answer a question unless it's pre-planned and the answer is written down in front of him. And I'm not even making fun of him because honestly, as you know, I'm a nurse. I think this is, I don't want to say elder abuse, but I think I can't imagine why his wife's going along with this. And I I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad. Apart from everything else, as a human being, that they're doing this to him. And I think the reason is, I mean, it's obvious because there was no other Democrat that could get votes because he's the only one that was midstream. But another part of that I think people forget is the Democratic platform adopted Ding Dong AOC's Green New Deal, adopted a lot of Bernie stuff, and like that's Joe Biden's platform now. And maybe even that knucklehead in Texas's gun. Yeah, he said, what's his name? The guy that tried to run, but he was horrible. He said, "You're going to be in charge of my
Beta.
Yeah, fake Spanish guy. Fake Spanish guy. He's going to be in charge of his gun policy. I mean, if Biden still had his mind, that would maybe even be a bigger disaster."
Yeah, the whole thing with what were you saying before about the? I'm drawing a blank now. We were just talking about
Bernie's policies, AOC's policies. Oh, about the elder abuse.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so, that leading into it. So the elder abuse is one thing. I wasn't laughing. I'm laughing at the whole scenario because it's ridiculous that people can't see.
Funny,
but the whole thing with Bernie and that deal is the reason why he was able to get the nomination was because the DNC does not want they want to keep the establishment in place. And so you may have heard you have the establishment left and the establishment right, that they're kind of in cahoots, the Never Trumpers and the DNC, they're all still in the thing. So they don't want the Bernie people to come up. And so what Tim Pool was talks a lot is that he says essentially that had the left just allowed Trump to win in 2024, they have a better shot in 2024 to win because Trump's going to get rid of all of the establishment. But if Biden wins, then they're going to crush the resistance. They're going to crush the Bernie guys and all that stuff because they don't like them anymore, which is why Bernie wasn't invited into the DNC, which not Bernie, but the Young Turks who are part of that whole movement. And so they are using the radical left to get their way. Once they get their way, they're going to squash them like a bug when they get a chance.
They're going to throw them. Absolutely.
Yep.
And I just think it's shameful. People like the Never Trumpers and the Lincoln Project and Mitt Romney, that whole group of people, they're just as bad as Hillary because the American people voted and chose. And you're trying to, somebody said to me on Facebook, stop making Trump out to be a victim. I said, Trump's not the victim. I am. We are the voters that voted him in because we wanted him to do what he said he was going to do. And you keep trying to invalidate that. You're invalidating my vote. We are the victims, not Donald Trump. Oh, and that was the other thing I was going to say.
And he's the one. He's the one.
I'm sorry. We have a little bit of a time delay, so we keep talking on top of each other. But I just wanted to say, on Biden's plane, it was pointed out, nobody's allowed to be on a plane with him but Jill and maybe like an assistant. No press. Nobody else on that plane.
Interesting. On the plane?
Yeah, whenever he goes and does an event. That's probably where they do the reanimation with the embalming fluid.
We remember all the conspiracy with Hillary Clinton when she had to build. Actually, it was interesting on 9/11. Remember, she had it was hot and she was like doing this thing. And she fell into they threw her into the car or whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of conspiracies about that too. I mean, how she kept the press at arm's length. I mean, she did not let anyone go in there outside of Uma, her best bud, and her entourage and her doctor that was with her all the time. You know what I'm talking about? There's a black guy who's with her all the time. There's the doctor. And so there's a lot of conspiracies about that. But
I thought that was the guy that carried the hot sauce.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously she's black though. I'm not.
Yeah, right. Well, you don't have the hot sauce in a bag.
Oh gosh.
When we do this live, are people making comments? Can you see them?
They are. There hasn't been one in a while. There's it's several, but I haven't put them on the screen yet.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, it was like they're not really relative to. Well, here's one here.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Trump's Twitter. That was hilarious.
Yeah. So, the the campaign should be interesting. You know, I'll talk a little bit about the Red Mirage since I read this article. So the Red Mirage is essentially the notion that on election day that it will appear that Trump wins by a landslide because all the mail-in voting hasn't been counted yet, and all the people who are voting for Trump are going to be the ones that are physically voting in person, and that you can see a 403 number on election night, and then of course coming out of that a few days later, mail-in votes get caught and counted, and then you have states dropping blue as you go forwards. Similarly, what happened in Arizona, when the senator there was losing election night by a big margin, but then they ended up losing because of mail-in votes. But the thing about that is the reason why that's not likely to happen, because a lot of the key states like Ohio and Florida, they count their ballots first. Pennsylvania counts them later, but Ohio and Florida count theirs before. The first thing they do is they count the mail-in votes first, and most states don't count anything postmarked beyond election day, and so. But California and Arizona, those are going to be nightmares because they're traditionally nightmares because they are incompetent and they don't do things properly. But I think with the states that are in play, I think Trump should still win, even a close margin, if everything else goes poorly, because those early votes will get called and there would be no room for cheating after the fact. Plus, if Trump has a big margin on election night and then all of a sudden it starts turning blue along the way, the country will not accept that. And there will be a massive unrest, and I don't think that this country will stand for that. I don't believe the Supreme Court will stand for that, even though Judge Roberts doesn't like Trump.
Yeah, so I have some questions about that because I read a few months ago that the mail-in ballots are pre-postage paid, and they do not get stamped. Anything that has the postage paid already on it doesn't get stamped. So I don't know if the mail-in ballots, because I don't know. Maybe what somebody watching knows, like absentee ballots and mail-in ballots, are they pre-post paid? So actually you and I'm going to send for my ballot. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see if it has an R on a D on it. I want to see if it's I want to investigate it. I'm not going to submit it, but I'm going to ask for that ballot because I want to see what's on there and how it identifies me. So that's an interesting question. And when is the cutoff for accepting the ballots? Is it different in every state, or do we have to, like, ballots can come in till December 31st? I don't know that I'm clear on all these things. I think, of course, it's just a mechanism to try to scam us. And that Red Mirage. So apparently, I saw that on Tim Pool where they talked about they had some like war games between the Never Trumpers and the left, and they tried to figure out different ways of how things would roll out. And they did say that the morning after the election day, November 4th, the whole country will be red. But then bit by bit, what's that going to be? Hundreds of thousands that would have to be hundreds of thousands of mail-in votes will come and flip it. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, just because you have mail-in votes doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to be for Trump. If you have a bunch of mail-in votes that all are going to be Democrat, as they typically end up doing, then there's fraud written all over that. So what happens is the Board of Elections per state has to go in and ratify that particular election. They count them, and then they have lawyers all over the place for both the campaigns, and then they eyeball it and verify it and throw the ones out that they don't want to throw out, and keep the ones they do want to keep. It happens though, and what could happen is that if they either way, it's gonna be not trustworthy, right? So if Republicans say these are duplicate ballots, or they are people who are dead or not eligible to vote or not postmarked, or like a butterfly ballot, indecisive, those are supposed to get tossed out regardless. Now that's going to be a problem on the left because they're going to say, of course, the right's cheating. On the other side of it is we say the exact same thing if those are accepted. So, where's the arbitration here? And that's crazy.
Well,
and the key thing is
it's going to end up like what happened in it's going to be a hanging Chad situation, and there might be multiple court situations across. And I do think that, remember when Hillary said, I think it was at the DNC, she said something about Joe Biden should not concede this election. She said that on her videotape. And I think that's because we have a dirty plan that we're going to put in place. So don't worry. Like, I think that was the part she didn't say out loud.
But see, here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So if Trump gets the kind of turnout, now here's the deal. If on election day, the independents break wildly crazy right to Trump, which I think they will, because at the end of the day, when you get that voting booth, all that Facebook stuff, all that Twitter stuff, all that BS goes out the window. Now you're right there. The rubber meets the road. Am I going to vote for safety and security and money in my pocket? Or am I going to vote for an unknown person who hasn't said anything about what he wants to plan to do? I might not like Trump, but I know 4 years wasn't that bad because I'm still here. Things are going relatively okay. Where he's gotten three Nobel Peace Prize nominations. He's not that bad of a person. I might not like him. So do I choose him or do I choose Biden? I think they're going to choose Trump, And then that's what will happen there is it's going to be a massive swing, a wave election. It's going to be of the notion of 72 for Nixon, 84 or 80 of Reagan. And it's going to be the biggest margin that there's not going to be enough cheating that they can possibly do. How are they going to do anything when California is lost by 5 points? How are they going to cheat when Oregon is lost by 2 points? How are they going to cheat when Wisconsin is won by 3 points? You can't cheat those. That's too much cheating for them to do.
Yeah.
If Wisconsin's 1 point, Michigan's 1 point, Florida's 1 point, Pennsylvania's a half point. Oh yeah, it's going down. It's going to go down. But if you know what I'm saying, so we're going to have to come out in such a big number that it's going to make this election cheat proof. That the Democrats say, you know what, just wrap it up and let's just go to 2024 and beat him in. Because we know he's not going to do anything too radical. We don't like him. We'll be embarrassed. But it's better than having a constitutional crisis and this country go up in flames.
And I think things like the riots and the BLM, which is definitely associated. I mean, there are some Democrats I know that are like, we didn't have anything to do with that. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Number one. And number two, no Democrat has forcefully spoken out. Still. You can say riot and cheating. Riot and looting is wrong, but how about saying last night in Chicago, what happened was bad? Do you know what I mean? They won't come out and say anything in detail. And I agree. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And lastly, I have some friends who I love, but they're really loudmouth anti-Trumpers, and they're always posting nasty stuff. But I know for a fact that many of them have not voted. They don't even know where the voting booth is. A lot of loudmouth people are your friends on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They haven't voted in years. People on the right are more religious about voting, I think. Although I hear that black people are the most faithful voters. Did you ever hear that?
I would say my parents are absolutely faithful voters. They have never missed an election, including a primary. I missed one election in the past 20 years, and that was a runoff election of an off-year city municipal election, and I'm still mad about it. There's a runoff for a city council seat, whatever, and I missed it. So, but I haven't missed a single election. So people who are like me are faithful. I think because they're vested. So the ones that vote I would say I agree with you, but the ones that don't vote, they would be like everybody else, I would think. But
activate the prayers. That's all we can just keep doing. I mean, I'm already praying, but we got to pray harder and stronger and more, because I think if Biden wins, I mean, I think I might move to Costa Rica. I can't live under that.
Yeah, see what Biden brings with him is so. If it was just Biden, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I don't think.
Right. It would just be nothing. But Biden, a loss or a plus.
You would have deadlock because I don't think they would get the Senate, so they'll be deadlocked. I can deal with 4 years of deadlock versus having a leftist Congress ramrodding judges. I mean, it's gonna be insane. Their agenda is going to be to, number one, make their elections bulletproof for the next 30 to 40 years. So they're going to try and make the open border. They're going to try and have sanctuary cities. They're going to try and add DC as a state. They add 2 more senators, so they can have 2 more senators. They're going to do all this kind of crap, right? They're going to make it so that even though you might like it, you can't beat us because we've already stacked the deck on it for ourselves. Just like when they gerrymander themselves into districts for decades because they can't lose. They're going to do that.
I was just going to say, but here's a couple things. I am very hopeful about the Senate and the Congress. Very hopeful. I know I've been sending my $5 donations here and my $10 donations here. There's a lot of really tight races. So if we can flip the Senate and the Congress red and we lose the presidency, I would be upset, but I would still want to live. If we lost the presidency and one of those two bodies, I don't know what I would do. But also, you know how Trump's been putting all these federal judges in. I mean, he's been quietly doing the work. I don't know who helps him think of this stuff. But even if he didn't get a second term, he set a lot of grounds with these judges, and you know, that's helpful. But the next 4 years are going to be like the stuff where you really lay the groundwork. And I think that the Democrats are so disjointed. I don't think they're on the same page enough to do the great work that Trump and his people are doing. You know, you got the far nutsies, you got the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars who seem to have an awful lot of power. And the old school Democrats, they're not for all that nonsense. I think they, you know, I mean, you saw Jeff Van Drew, he flipped. And I think there's people inside that are like, I don't know how much longer I can keep this up, because they're not for all that shenanigans. I think there are some people on both sides that truly just got into this to help people. And if you're on the Democrat side, what do you say to yourself when you go to bed at night? When they just blew off the pandemic's funding again this week. How do you live with yourself? I mean, a smart, intelligent person can only blame it on Trump for so long, especially those on the lower level, like the new Congress people. What do they say to themselves?
I think people like AOC and the squad, I think they're true believers. I think they actually believe they're crap because of their education, unfortunately. And so that's the big issue. And that's why I like Trump talking about the patriotic reform in schools and getting rid of stuff like the 1619 Project, where it basically lied about America, saying that America's an inherently racist country. These people believe this stuff, and they think that we can just do socialism right if we just do it this way. And I think that's really the big issue. There's no basic understanding of economics or math or anything like that.
No.
And so
or history.
That's how they. But I think, but your question though, how does the people like Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and Biden, how do they go to bed at night? Because they know better.
I think that Schumer is of zero.
Especially Schumer.
Schumer is he's disgusting. I think that Nancy Pelosi is crazed, power crazed. And I mean, she lives like,
yeah, well,
remember that video where she was like, I just opened my freezer, and she had like that $25,000 freezer, and she takes out the top line ice cream. I'm just going to stay home and eat ice cream. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's like Elizabeth Warren and having the beer in the kitchen. So out of touch with reality. So out of touch. I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know. I'm looking at the comments. I'm praying all these people are right. I'm sort of like you, like I felt confident in 2016, really confident. And then like 2 days before the election, I started to get scared. I've been confident all year. Now I'm getting a little bit scared, not crazy scared, but a little bit scared, because if Trump doesn't win, it's really going to be bad for America.
Yeah, I have to say, I was insulated in 2016. I was just listening to the right people. Had I listened to the mainstream media in 2016, I probably lost all my hair. You know, I probably been just totally hairless. I'm sorry. But I didn't do that. I was listening to people who are positive. This time around, those people have been shut down, believe it or not, on Twitter and so forth. So I don't have those people to talk to go on anymore. So it's kind of me myself looking at numbers myself. And so I'm looking at stuff, and it's all over the place, right? And so right now, Trump looks like he's in good shape, but I think what's going to end up happening is, and in 2016, same thing. People who are going to vote for Trump just are not talking to the pollsters, and we're not going to know until the election day. So we can't really predict it until the election day. Only we can go off as indicators on internals in the polls that show certain things, like with women, with blacks, with Latinos, with Hispanics, on issues, on the economy, on national defense. All these things are leaning to Trump on all the internals. So how in the hell is he down, in some of these national polls? And I understand that, because they're mispolling, they're overrepresenting, and they're not getting the people who wouldn't vote, who wouldn't tell the pollster how they really truly feel. So the long story short of this, we're going to be on pins and needles day of the election. I will say this: if, let's say, he's up in like the RCP average, it's a lock because by then he's up by 30 at that point. So because they can only hide so much,
Right.
But
well, I mean, look at the polls from 2016. I don't think he wasn't up in any single poll. But the reason I knew he was going to win,
he's up in two. He's up in two.
In 16.
Yep, he's up in LA Times, and he's up in TIPP.
Okay, well, I worked at Rikers Island then. I was a nurse, and my unit, which happened to be the psych patients, loved Donald Trump. I mean, and this is 17 hardened criminals. But I think the reason they liked Trump and why even people like that don't like Hillary, because people that live on the streets, like they can tell a bull, somebody that's full of baloney, like from a mile away. And the thing about Trump is I think he comes off as being very genuine, even to his detriment sometimes. And when Trump would come on TV, the inmates would be like, Trump, 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 Trump. And they couldn't stand Hillary. And I mean, it's sort of still the same. I think that anybody with a brain is going to be like, this Biden is not fit to find his way home at night. And I just hope it's the same thing. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. But God's been good. I think God put Trump in that spot because I believe that God qualifies the called. He doesn't call the qualified. And I think he called him, and he was just the a-hole we needed in there to be a total jerk and a disruptor. And I hope that he gets to drain more of the swamp before he goes. And I think there are people like Dan Crenshaw and some other that like in 10 years will be presidential material. They seem very bright. Oh, you know who else I like? The governor of South Dakota.
Yeah, it's just great. She's awesome.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and she can afford to be because she has a good base of support, and she doesn't have to worry about federal influence because they have their own natural resources out there.
Right.
So I mean that's I'm looking at some stuff from sports here. I'm sorry, but I was gonna go into that. Your thoughts on that, but the whole culture right now is just gone crazy. Because right now it's like what's up is down, what's down is up. What's right is wrong, what's wrong is right. And it's like and they're insulting our intelligence on a daily basis, and it really just makes me it infuriates me.
Yeah, me too.
It totally infuriates me. How you have these false narratives out there, and no one's calling on anyone on anything. Which is why I'm looking forward to these debates, because I'm hoping that he can just nail him to the wall on any of this stuff. It's going to be a nightmare for Biden. He can't possibly do a debate with Trump.
He can't possibly. But listen, the reason that you say no one's calling them out is because we continue to listen to mainstream media. And even Fox, I'm losing my taste for Fox because, first of all, I hate how they have Donna Brazile on all the time because she's an immoral cheater. And I don't like that. And I can't. I used to love the Five, but Juan just gets on your nerves because it's the same thing. No matter what happens, he's like, Trump's no good. He doesn't have a reasonable explanation of anything. But I like Newsmax, which is very conservative and very pro-Trump, but I don't mind. And then it's really reading, and YouTube is where you can only get your information from. But I wanted to say something about the sports. I'm disappointed that the ratings last night only dropped 16%. On 9/11, to have all that kneeling, I saw the most idiotic video. Did you see the Miami Dolphins? They stayed inside and they made a video, and it's a poem about brotherhood and this. And until that happens, we're going to stay inside. Did you see it?
No, I heard about it. I can't stomach that stuff.
Here's the thing. You know what? What's that guy's name? Jason Whitlock. He wrote an article, and it was really good. And he said, we do accept things like Jackie Robinson, even Muhammad Ali. Like we do accept that, but not during the game, right? So years ago, do you remember when Charles Barkley was on the front cover of I forget what magazine, In Chains, like in the 90s?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
right.
Yep, he was.
That's acceptable because it wasn't during the game, and we weren't forced to listen to it. And now I saw a player. So what last night at the Kansas City Chiefs game, and they booed. They booed. It was coming across the board. Black Lives Matter or something like that. And they said, "They're booing black people." No, we're not. We don't want to hear your opinion on shite, number one. Number two, if you really wanted to do something to help people, like, let's start a foundation. Let's get in the neighborhoods. Let's do, that's what could help. The last thing I need is a moral opinion from any of those clowns. You get paid to carry a ball up and down the field or put it in the basket. That's it. Everything else is your ego talking.
Exactly. In fact, it was what it was they were locking arms with themselves for the Black national anthem or the Negro national anthem, and so the Houston team were in the locker room. They weren't out for either one, and so I think the fans. I did a video on this today, but
I watched it.
People are just upset in general, and they pay their money. They have every right to boo.
That's
and
right.
Jason Whitlock himself.
Guess what, jackass? It has nothing to do with being racist. It's about you shoving your opinion down my throat. Those tickets are not cheap. I didn't pay a lot of money to come here. I came here to watch people, do a sport, not moralize and lecture me. Which, what I was thinking about? So I have this friend back in Long Island. Her father has had season tickets for the New York Giants since they played in New York, like at the tiny stadium. I forget what it was, like, 25, 30, 40, whatever years he's been going there. So you got these older people, that have been dedicated to these teams. And those season tickets are really, depending on the team, but they're very, very, very expensive. And what are these old guys going to do? These are people that fought in WW2, Korean War, Vietnam War. They have these tickets. They're not cheap. They're not buying something they probably could use so they can spend the money. So on Sundays or every other Sunday, they can go to the stadium with their son, their grandchildren, their wife. They're dedicated to these teams, and they got to go hear this crap. Those players couldn't carry water for this oldest, greatest generation. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's a disservice. I mean, and here's a problem I have. Look, if we had a situation, I mentioned this in my video earlier today, that if this was real racism or something that was really a problem, then let's lock arms and let's stomp this thing out. But we're dealing with stuff that there's no solution for it. There's no solution for a lie. There's no solution for hands up, don't shoot when it never happened. There's no solution for problem. Yeah, exactly. And it's all set up just so they can make people upset, so they can get people out in the polls. This is an election year that they cannot lose. So they're going all out. I tried to send you something in Facebook earlier, and it got banned inside the internal messaging system within Facebook. They're blocking internal messages now. And so they don't want any messages going out there at all because the liberal ideas, I'm sorry to say for them, sucks. It's not our fault that their ideas are horrible. So, I mean, what's the conservative guy up in New York? He back in the old school guy. He was influential to. He's a New Yorker, a Republican. Rush Limbaugh was the one who's mentored by. Anyway, but he would say, like, the area of ideas or the platform of ideas or the whatever is something that should be a competitive market. If you have an idea, and I have an idea.
Milton Friedman?
I'm sorry?
Was it Milton Friedman?
Is he from New York?
I don't know, but they were bashing him recently. That's what made me think that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do you bash Milton Friedman?
Because anyway, capitalist is racism.
Okay. While they're wearing their Nikes and their iPhones, So, but if you have an idea, I have an idea. It should be weighed out in the public opinion of discussion, and so the best one wins. That's what it's all about. The problem is their ideas are horrible and they can't defend it, so they have to either bash, call names, or totally block it or burn the book, whatever it is, so you can't see it because people are logical people by nature. If you're someone is intellectually honest, you can break down an argument to them and they can agree with you. If you break it down to its lowest common denominator, and then they can, before you know it, if they're honest, they'll come your way. Or at least they'll know they're being duped and start reading for themselves. And they don't want that. So, and that's the problem when you go so far to the left, because you get away from the mainstream, you get away from logic and reason, and you're just going into you want to have happen so you can gain power and retain your money and your power base and so forth. That's all it's really about, really.
But I do think that what you said earlier about uneducated people are easy to lead around by the nose. And even people like AOC, I mean, she said, I don't know what she did in college, but like that whole generation, and they're college graduates, but like as Candace Owen says, they're more likely, I mean, that's worse than someone that didn't have any education, is the miseducation. But then you have other people like in the sports world. I don't know. I'm not sure that James LeBron is literate. I'm not really positive. So they don't know history and they don't know what happened, American or otherwise. So that's why it's easy to sway them, because they're never going to ask a question like, well, when did this system work? Where was this system successful? In what other country? You know, they're not going to say that. They're not smart enough. And those kind of people are easy to sway.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that you see in cults too, where they get people who just don't know better and they feel entitled or they feel indebted to them for whatever reason because they've done something to them or they've given them something, and now they feel either entitled, emotionally, or they feel entitled physically, because if they don't go with it, they're going to lose their paycheck or whatever the benefit that they get from that relationship.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why the black people went over to the Democrat Party, was because under Truman and FDR, the New Deal, that was what pinned many black people to go over to the Democrat Party, because it was a rough time. And so how you can tell someone who has 5 kids to feed that all you have to do is, go downtown, sign this paperwork, and you get some money and you can eat. So next time you want to vote, what are you going to do next time when the next party says, well, we're going to get rid of that? You're going to continue to vote for that, even though it may be bad for you long term. You don't care because you got to survive.
And I think once you associate things like, a good black person, that values, that stands with other black people, or my father, as his parents were immigrants, and he was a Democrat for a long time because of FDR, probably. And, the Democratic Party was seen as the party of the people. You were a Democrat. Yes. I was a Democrat. Until you really look at their platforms and their behaviors, you think that they're for the working people. And I thought that the Republican Party was for the Mitt Romneys of the world. But then that might have been true in the past, but it's no longer true. It's no longer true at all. The greatest thing to happen to the Republican Party, and one of the greatest things that Trump did maybe, was get non-traditional, meaning people of color, Latinos. If you follow that Walk Away page, have you seen that? So before the riot, it was at 240. It's up to 450 now. But the most interesting thing is everybody wants to tell their story, and it's all people you would never think would be a conservative. And they really flipped between the pandemic and the riots. Like what flipped them. I mean, they're posing with the same-sex couple, or they're from a cult, or they just landed from Mars. Like people that you would never think would be conservatives now are. And that's from Donald Trump and from us opening up the tent. And the Blacks for Trump movement. I think that's, your Larry Elders, the Blexit movement, all that. It's changing everything.
Yeah, right now it's at 460 right now. So
see?
I'm about to pull it up.
240 to 460 in like 3 months.
Yeah, I'm pulled up here. It's on my Facebook here. So let me see if I can share this. Sharing it. Okay, here we go. So right here is 494.59. Yeah. And so this is a good page.
Page down and see if you can see any of the profiles. It'll probably, I'll be embarrassed myself. But there was just tons of people all the time on here with nose rings and just people that you would never think would be a Republican, and here they are. And I think it's great.
Well, did you see the dance party in California? It was there was a rally for Trump, and there was I'm assuming this person was gay. I mean, he was acting. I mean,
the guy that was singing the MAGA song.
Yeah. I'm assuming he was gay. I mean, I'm not gonna speak for.
He was gay. But he was gay.
But he was flamboyant. Put it that way. He was not your button collar conservative, guy from Wisconsin. No, this was a guy was just and he was just cool. And it's like, you had these personalities like we see here. I mean, all over the place. I even saw a person who was just like, I mean, and from the occult, and it's like people. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of like people in here.
I mean, just all over the map. I mean, talk about a big tent. I mean, this is what the conservative movement has been saying they want it for decades, but they can never get it. I don't think they ever really wanted it, and so it's just interesting to me how Trump and just populism and just common sense has turned this party upside down, and I think for the better.
For the way better.
Essentially, what happened? Because what happened was after Lincoln was assassinated, the Democrats pretty much couldn't get in the White House because the North punished the South for decades, and so and then you have eventually out of that came out of corruption. We have a bunch of Republican presidents coming in. The Republicans pretty much got into a very, very, very corrupt type of game they were in, and they lost touch with the common man. And so people like Calvin Coolidge, who wasn't a bad president, but he was just button up collar and straightforward. But then you have someone like Teddy Roosevelt comes in who's totally different than that. And so I think Trump is of that mold. He's of the Teddy Roosevelt mold. And
I love Teddy Roosevelt. Love him.
Well, he went against this party all the time. So yeah, I guess that's where we are right now. And you have to understand people run these parties. This isn't something that's electronic. This is human beings with interests and values and principles and money that backs them, that influences them. And Trump, early on, funding his own campaign, I think that helped out a lot. And then when he went into the White House, he got rid of all the lobbyists on day one, and he answers to a small circle of people. And he talked about in a speech, I think he talked about, was it Winston-Salem? He said he's that guy's consultants, whatever. And he said, they won't like what I got to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because, I pay them, but I probably shouldn't because he runs his own ship. It's like, it's one of these kind of things. It's like he has consultants, but he doesn't really like them. He wants to go off his gut and his instincts.
And his gut's right, except for the Bob Woodward book. As a rule, his gut is pretty good. It certainly is good with media and appearances and the way he speaks. I mean, I feel bad about that Bob Woodward book. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think it may be, unless it's part of his 4D chess move, it may be that sometimes his ego gets in the way a little bit and makes him make some poor choices. Perhaps, unless every other time I thought that Trump fooled me and came out with some genius maneuver. So it might be that too. I don't know.
Is that near you?
I don't hear it.
You don't hear it?
Okay. So we'll do. This is what I want you to do. I want you to watch Cuties. It is not what the Netflix poster purported it to be. And I watched it last night, and I listened to what Ben Shapiro said about it. And it's actually kind of a sad movie. It's really like an art house movie that most people would never watch because of the subject matter. It's kind of complicated, but I just think I saw that thing tonight. Actually, you had it up too about they want people to make a law against it, or they're trying to get politics involved. Listen.
Yeah, I had that up. Yeah.
I thought the movie was valuable because it still got me thinking and trying to figure it out. And it's really a commentary on unsupervised children, much more. And it's really a negative commentary on the old school Islamic, because that's what I mean, the reason the little girl gets so upset is because her father goes to get a second wife and bring it into the home in Paris. And that's what starts a whole bundle of trouble. And it's really, and the poor first wife is working. She's working so hard at one point in the movie, she serves dinner to the little children and passes out on the floor from exhaustion, getting the room ready for the new bride. I mean, that's really what it's slamming. It's really slamming that. And that little girl gets caught in the crossfire, but it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I saw Brandon Tatum's story last week on it, and after watching him, I calmed down a little bit because he was basically saying similar to what you were saying. It was a social commentary against trafficking children, treating them improperly. But he said one thing they dropped the ball on was the marketing of it. Was I think that was the issue that he had, and that and they've changed that marketing. But I mean,
but do you think they did that on purpose? Because I hate Netflix as a company.
Well, you know what? Sometimes what happens sometimes is these movies, believe it or not, the person that does that is maybe two of the people that have the decision to do that. It's not like they have a big committee for all these movies. They have thousands of movies. They just say, okay, you're in charge of these 3 movies. Do what you got to do, and whatever. Yeah. And this person, who could just be that one person, just a freaking weirdo, and he decided to do that marketing ad on it. So I don't know. I would like to think they did not. I mean, how stupid can you be? But the question I had was, how come when you were actually asked the question, are you against pedophilia? You couldn't answer the questions straight up. It was like almost like they were like, well, I mean, whatever. Did you catch that?
I saw something about that. There's a lot of, there's a Babylon Bee thing about it, and yes, I did see that. The other thing is, this was a woman director, a Muslim woman director, and anytime somebody wants to make a negative commentary on the way women are treated, not by the religion but by the culture, I'm on board, and I wanted to see what it was about, and I knew that she made this movie to make it against the sexualization, a commentary on how we sexualize young girls. So I wanted to see it. And, I mean, all of us have jumped on bandwagons. Brandon Tatum made a movie about that. I mean, made a little vignette about that bill in California that everybody said legalized sex between 11-year-olds and 24-year-olds.
Yeah.
But that's not what Brandon Tatum said. But I didn't know that. I just read the headline. He tried to keep it, try to play it more fairly or honestly, I guess. But again, I have a hard time, and that you mentioned it to me, I have a hard time watching that movie because but basically what you just told me, maybe I will. But I just couldn't see myself watching it, sitting down watching it, as a man watching it. But you put it that way, you frame it that way, that made it something different. That dancing stuff, it's only the weird part is at the end. It's the last 2 minutes of the movie. And when they're doing that, you're going to be horrified. I was horrified. The people in the audience watching in the movie are like that. I mean, it is gross, but that's the end of the movie. And something happens because of that sort of makes you think like that this little girl is going to be saved. And that's only at the very end. I'm telling you, it's not really about that. It's about unsupervised children and what they can get into.
Shows you how powerful marketing can be, right? There's a book by Alice Walker, came out in the 90s. It's called Possessing the Secret of Joy. And it's a book. Alice Walker, I think she wrote The Color Purple. It's about a woman who it's about female what's the word? What's the word? I mean, when you female circumcision, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about how it's prevalent in Africa, and this book just slams that whole practice, And so she was like, look, and no one's talking about that. And she was like, look, this is horrible. I bought that book and read it. It's horrible stuff.
It is horrible. And that still goes on. Actually, in Africa, it's actually even worse than it is in the Middle East. But as we know, it's in America, because people that come from those countries continue those practices when they get here. And I feel like, great, I'm glad to have you here, but there's certain things that we're not going to allow in this country. Multiple spouses, pedophilia, not that I know any particular country that's associated with that. Well, having sex with a girl that's just because she has her period at 11 or 12, to me, that's pedophilia. So this kind of stuff, if you want to stay in the country, you can't do that. And if you do it, you got to get out. You got to go. The card is pulled. The green card is pulled. Out the door you go. Go back to where you can carry on like that and nobody cares, because it's not going to happen here. And I think we have to speak up for these girls. Our little girls in this country, they're getting Kardashianized, and it's not good.
Yeah. And here's the book right here. Yeah, and so what's that? What was that I was going to say about? There was something. Oh, Cardi B. I mean, what in the world? I mean, I had no idea what a WAP was until Candace Owens actually said it verbatim in her. I was like, what? And then she said, go ahead and watch the look at the lyrics. I looked the lyrics up. Have you seen the lyrics of the song, or have you heard the song?
I've heard it. I've seen the lyrics, and I'd like to say, do you know how many 12-year-old girls are dancing to that right this second? Right this second.
Wow.
What are we gonna do?
So, I mean,
we got to do something. We got to do something.
I've got a daughter.
Yes, you do. And I mean, I am a daughter, and I have 2 sons, but this whole dichotomy in this country, because we're really sort of a puritanical country, but yet we allow this. Look at the Kardashians. How many years have they been on TV? And they're
actually, I think it's canceled now. I think it's canceled now. I think they canceled.
No, they quit. They didn't cancel. They quit. But so
they quit.
It's not the Kardashians. It's clothing. It's the music. It's look at the stars are people that sexualize themselves. We don't worship really smart women. We don't try to dress like really smart women and then on the other hand, then we're like, oh, men brutalize us and they boss us around at work. Well, you look like a whore. You know what I mean? Like, what do you expect? You got the Cardi B and everybody's like, dancing to that. And then you want respect and be given authority. You can't have it both ways. So we either got to squash this sexualization stuff. We've got to squash it. The clothing and everything else. I do think the pendulum is going to swing. I've even read, well, mostly because people are such loners now, like early sexuality isn't happening like it used to because everybody stays at home on their phone swiping. Oh, but that's another good point though.
Yep.
Girls, like if they don't get likes, they want to kill themselves on their Instagram. I knew one woman in Oyster Bay that was brave enough. She did not allow her daughter to have social media till she was 17. And I don't know how she did it, but she did. And she was right. I mean, that's the right thing to do. Girls live and die by Instagram, and they see all the Photoshop models, the Instagram model, the fans only. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, you can't live up to the airbrushed imaging that you see on the media. I know they want to say fat shaming and all that. There's still prevalent stuff about just showing people at their best at all times.
Do you know what fans only is? You know what fans only is?
No.
Okay, so that's a website. It's called Fans Only. And people like me or your wife can set up porn pictures and stuff and sell them on Fans Only.
What?
You better look
like a revenge site?
This. It's called Fans Only. It's very popular. But even like a 17-year-old girl could put pictures up there and sell them. And people, women, trifling girls, the same girls that think a boyfriend should pay their car note and pay their cell phone bill, are using Fans Only instead of having a job because they make money from selling, naked pictures of themselves. And it's not like a little tiny. Everybody knows what Fans Only is. I mean, especially if you're in the mix, you're a little isolated, but it's out there, and there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of talking about it. Maybe not your son, but if you ask my son next time you're around here, he'll tell you exactly. It's very popular right now. Girls actually think they can make a living by selling, naked pictures of themselves.
So, but you're saying that you think the pendulum will swing. What do you think will make that happen? Do you think just because we've gone so far down the gutter that people realize that this isn't the way to go? And
we're at the end. It's like, when you go down somewhere, a cave, and you get to the end of the cave, you got nothing to do but turn around and come back the other way. Like everything that can be done or said or worn has happened. The little boy doing the drag shows in New York City, like we've gone to the end of the line. The drag queens reading the books in the library to the children, and the way they went about that, it was just, we're at the back of the cave. There's no way out, obviously. So now everybody turn around and go in the opposite direction. I think it's going to happen. And I think that girls are going to get smarter and hopefully find a way to get self-esteem from not little boys' approvals. I hope. That's why you got to watch Cuties. It's really very interesting about that.
Yeah, that's probably another movie that's going to depress me. But since we're on the topic of Netflix, let me ask you. I'll talk to you about a film that I saw. It was like actually like a documentary. It's about an hour long. It's called The Push on Netflix. Have you seen that?
What's it about? What's
The
it
Push is
about?
very interesting. You need to watch this. Okay. It's a social experiment. It's about so it's a setup where they take people who are actors portraying. They want to get someone to kill somebody by the end of the night. So they say by social engineering, can we get this person to kill somebody by the end of this night? And they add pressure on little increments, small, capitulations, small compromises. And by the time it's all said and done, they're in so deep. Will they make that push to somebody off that building or not? It's fascinating. And it's all based on somebody sitting next to you. If they stand up, do you stand up? Or I stand up too. So they get those people who fall in line with that. And then they just, do you mind compromising? Do you mind, picking up a something that fell on the floor and put it back on the plate and sell it to somebody? Are you willing to make immoral and ethical compromises for the sake of not feeling like you're not being approved? So you make a tiny one
and a little bit bigger, then a little bit bigger. But you know what?
Yes. Yeah.
That story, along with Cuties, is about people not having a spiritual framework in your life, right? So if it was someone you have a deep spirituality. I also am a very observant Christian. I don't think that I would even let it get that far because of my spiritual framework and my faith. And I think we are a country at this point, an aimless country, and maybe other parts of the world too, because there's not that many people that their religious belief is part of their life and they act on it every day. I don't think.
Well, I don't want to get into a theological discussion, but it reminds me of the book of Daniel, where basically he was offered to make a compromise of eating the king's food, but God told him not to do it. And it was a small compromise. All he had to do was eat the king's food, but he said, no, I'm not going to do it. And he decided not to. He didn't compromise even at the smallest level. And he was able to be a bigger leader down the line because God gave him more, because he was faithful in the small. And so I kept thinking about this because they make this person do this one compromise. It was just like, man, it's a trip, man. It's fascinating. It's a fun hour to watch. I recommend it.
I will watch it.
Yep. So.
All right, you watch Cuties and I'll watch The Push, and then we'll meet back and talk about it.
Maybe we'll talk in private. I mean, if I watch it, whatever, I'll see it, whatever. If I feel it's that way, I don't want to put my reputation on something like that. But I trust your opinion. It sounds like it's not that bad in terms of what you're telling me. But the marketing campaign, I just can't get that out of my head. You're like, what the hell were y'all doing? I'm like, what the? I'm
on the side of the woman director, right? So she makes this kind of pretty good film and has a lot of thought-provoking. And then Netflix does that, and I don't think she should suffer. She might have 10 more great movies in her, especially if they're anti-Islamic culture. I'm for that. And they're pro-women. And that's why
And that's why I brought Alice Walker. I brought her up because she was a woman that only a woman could really do that book, right? And probably only a woman could bring this kind of movie to the whatever.
To the forefront.
And I think I'm pretty sure she was pissed when she found out that marketing campaign happened. I bet she was mad because she's like, look, this is not my.
She's like thinking like my life's work, and you just trashed it about some garbage poster.
Yeah, like a trailer. That you're telling me it's like the last few parts of the film. You're making it seem like the home's like this.
Right.
Yeah. That was
a little bit. Yeah.
So
and it's rough.
One more question. One more question. One more question before I go. What did Ben Shapiro say about the film?
He said, and this is what he helped me think it through. So this little girl who's been shielded in a very strict Muslim household, and then something happens with the father getting the new bride and all that, and she loses her mind, and all of a sudden she gets a cell phone because she stole it. And then she's the one that starts acting out the most. And it's because she was so sheltered, she has no idea what's okay and what's not okay. So she gets on the internet and she sees these women doing these like sort of lesbian sexual dances, and she wants to act out. So she's going to do that. It's just like she has no barometer. So people that are raised in a normal household They know like how far to go and what you can push and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. This little girl actually freaks out the more westernized girls. So Ben said his big thought was, in a movie, is it okay to portray something that's repugnant for artistic sake? And there's been many movies over the years. Well, I forgot, you're a big movie fan, right? So the question
like Kids.
Like what?
The movie called Kids came out in the 90s.
I don't know that one, but he was talking about Clockwork Orange or maybe Caligula.
So teenagers running amok and doing bad stuff, basically.
Right. So it's the same thing. So does it have artistic value? And that's what he was talking about. And he said he thought maybe the movie could have been made without it, but he wasn't even positive. That little gross dance thing. And she does a couple of things that are like really like eyebrow raising. But I never thought about the fact that because she was so sheltered, she didn't understand, like, you go at 5 or 10 miles an hour. You don't open the door and go at 90 miles an hour, because she was unable to equilibrate that because she had no experience.
Yeah.
But anyway, he did think it was not at all what was marketed. He did think that it was thought-provoking. He really liked the idea of the internet raising, I mean, not like the idea, but he thought it really brought to light, if you're not with your kids and watching what they do and supervising them, the internet is raising your children. And that's what he felt about it. And
that's scary. It's better for TV doing it, but internet's interactive. So.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna offer the people who've come on here late. I'm gonna show the video clip again of you at the Trump rally behind the stage, VIP status. I'm so jealous on that one.
It was so good.
But is there anything you want to say before? Is there anything you want to say before we leave? You want to?
No, MAGA Trump 2020.
There was so much stuff to talk about today. I didn't know what to do. So okay,
there's so much.
I'm gonna play this video real quick, and then So anyway, I got a big announcement coming up. You can kind of see here below where YouTube memberships. I've been approved for YouTube memberships, and so that's something that's really cool because typically you only get 30,000 subscribers to get that. I got it only having 3,000 subscribers. I think what's happening is the channel is doing well from engagement standpoint, and so I think YouTube just said we're going to give it to them. So that's coming up soon, and I'm looking forward to that. I know I was really excited about that. So hopefully do more, add more stuff to people. Yep. So anyway, so this is the conservative take, and this is Jackie. And if you like what we do with this channel, please like and subscribe. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers, which is awesome, and we're on the way to 10,000 subscribers and beyond, hopefully. And so if you like what we do here, you like what you see, please subscribe and share with your friends. And with that, I'm going to exit with this video, and I hope you guys do well. Have a good evening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Oh, there we go. Give a thumbs up or something.